Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement with the founder of Cornerstone Retirement Partners, Grand Rapids, your resource for a common sense approach to planning. And if you've got questions or concerns, we always would love to hear those from you. You're welcome to submit them to the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners and hear the perspective, the guidance, and the expertise of Ron Corser, CFP, Certified Financial Planning Professional, here as your resource to get that information, to get that guidance and perspective on the financial world and the important decisions we make with our money in order to achieve our goals. Ron, we always appreciate the time. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody listening to today's program. For those of you on your way to church, thanks for tuning in. If you want to hear the rest of the program, because I know you're only going to be able to tune in a little bit, go to our website at www.cornerstone-rp.com. That's www.cornerstone-rp.com. And you can listen to today's program along with all of others that are still on our website. So we're going to have a really interesting conversation today. And I don't mean that to say other conversations aren't interesting, but it's going to be interesting because it's going to be focused around a simple idea of caring for our loved ones. So who are our loved ones? Immediate family, children, if you're a grandparent, especially your grandchildren. And for a lot of us in our current generation, we're the sandwich generation, where we're sandwiched between our parents, maybe even on occasion a grandparent, and our children, and trying to figure out, if you're kind of like me, how do we take care of all these different folks in our family? Because it's important to me and it's important to a lot of other people. So we're going to touch base on that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions after listening to some of this program, or I kind of stir something in your heart, give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there. We'll reach out to you and help you with answering your questions, providing you with information you need to make really good decisions when it comes to how do we care for our family, immediate family, extended family, all the family we feel responsible for going forward.
Ron, it's an interesting point that you raise with this sandwich generation phenomena. That really is something that is relatively new in today's kind of modern dynamics financially, to be simultaneously potentially responsible for helping to care for both parents and children or grandchildren. How much is that impacting our own financial progress toward retirement and toward our stability goals? And then how does that require any kind of different perspective on planning? What do we need to do potentially?
Well, those are great questions. I go to the last question you asked. What do we need to do? Most importantly, we have to sit down and speak with our spouse about, okay, what's going on and what's important, and what is it we should get involved with, and what shouldn't we get involved with? And that forms the basis of probably what are some of the things we have to be concerned about going forward. Now, being part of the sandwich generation is a new experience for us boomers, but it's something that we kind of face every day, either with one parent or two parents that are not as spry and don't have that spring in their step that they used to. But we also have things going on with our children and grandchildren too. I know in my wife Nancy and I's life, we're very concerned about our grandchildren. My mom and dad have died. And so it's not like we have to take care of somebody. But my wife, Nancy, her mother is in a nursing home. And that requires, even though she's in a nursing home, it still requires a lot of time and attention. And sometimes it can be very stressful, even when you hope it wouldn't be. Because always caring for somebody else, particularly when you have to drive to see them, and particularly going back over the COVID issues, it created a lot of stress in the family as to how to help her, what to do for her medical issues, and things like that. Fortunately, for our family, a long time ago, given that I was in the industry, we did provide a long-term care package for her. She did, when she turned 70, and she's pushing 90 now, she bought, I'll tell the story, it's kind of neat. She bought a long-term care policy. She wanted to buy it from me, not from the guy at church. So I went over to the house and she said, I don't know what you're selling, but this is the one I want because it's what all my friends in church have. So I said, okay, and started to take some information down. And I thought, boy, this is what I'm learning about her, just what little she shared about her health. This is going to be a tough thing to get through. But I took the application as a dutiful son-in-law, got the check, mailed it all in. 3 weeks later, I get a call from my wife. And she says, my mom just called me and said that she got turned down for long-term care for that insurance policy. What did you do wrong? And I'm thinking, I didn't even know she got turned down. I'm not sure I did anything wrong. So she apparently had gotten a letter from the insurance company. Thank you very much. Here's your check. We've looked at your situation. We're not going to extend insurance. So I said, well, I guess that's that. And my wife, Nancy, said, no, you got to go back. I said, your mom's mad at me now. She thinks I did this. And she says, you have to go back. I said, I don't want to go back. And my wife, Nancy, looked at me with all the love in her eyes that you could ever hope to see and a smile on her face. She said, let me put it to you this way. If you don't go back and she doesn't get some insurance and she gets sick, she's going to come and live with us. That's when you know you need all the help of the living God to do this. So I went back. We applied for another company and she got turned down a second time. I figure it's all over. So under severe stress, penalty of severe death and dismemberment, I went back a third time. And fortunately, we got a good company to give her the coverage. And about a month later, she had a healthcare event that would have excluded her forever from ever getting coverage.
Wow.
So that's a long story, but it just shows that, number one, perseverance, if you think something is really important and you make a decision to do something about it, takes some time. But her mom has been on claim now for 8 years. Think about that. She's been on claim for 8 years. She hasn't paid a dime in 8 years. And she still has money. She's 90 years old. Her body's falling apart, but her brain is still pretty good. So that's an example where, as a family, we kind of made a decision that this was necessary to do. And it turned out okay. But unfortunately, sometimes families don't get the advice or the planning help that they need to really work through this whole idea of how do we take care of mom and dad? How do we take care of our grandchildren? How do we take care of our children? The last decade has been an interesting decade. There's been great markets, but this last 2 years of COVID has created enormous planning problems, enormous financial difficulty for many, many families all over the country and in West Michigan in particular. So we're going to talk today about what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? Because, as they say, we're right in the middle of it. And what are we going to do about it? So if we've touched on a kind of a soft spot in your heart already, give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We can help you sort through these questions because it's not caring for loved ones as a sandwich generation person is not something you figure out how to do in 10 minutes. It's a little more complicated than that. So give us a call at 616-301-2581. 2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there. Now, in our firm, we help with the planning. My wife Nancy's team helps with the whole Medicare issue, and we can help in some fashion with Medicaid if that's an issue. But she does the long-term care planning for our clients, and she's extremely talented and good at that, and so is her staff. We can be an incredible resource for people to get past that idea that, oh yeah, I heard about long-term care, but I'm not getting it because I heard it's so expensive. It may in fact be that way in your particular situation, and it may not be, depending on how we can help you. The important thing is to take a look at all the options. What kind of help do you need and is out there for you? So give us a call at 616-301-2581, and we can help you with these decisions that sometimes come out of left field on a very sudden basis. And it's always good to have a plan before that happens, as opposed to, wow, now we got to do a fire drill to see if we can get this fixed.
Once again, that number, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, it's become a bit of a tradition that on the Mother's Day weekend or around that time, we talk about caring for loved ones and caring for the family. And then on Father's Day, we talk about the different financial tools. I think the themes coincide there for some reason, but there's a lot that goes into caring for our family members, and we're going to be in a better situation, as you said, if we are proactive in this, where those kind of events can pop up unexpectedly or out of the blue, but the preparations for if they become an actuality and if we have them pop up in our lives should be done in advance, and we will be in a much better position as a result. But a lot goes into it. I mean, we're going to be talking about proper saving and investing. We're going to be talking about tax planning. We're going to be talking about life insurance and different precautions, but all of those are resources that you have there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. We'll talk about Social Security and pension decisions. A lot goes in here financially to the decisions that we are making and how we are planning proactively in order to protect our family members and our loved ones. At the root of it all, though, Ron, I think it starts with good conversations with our family in trying to not only transfer assets, but transfer values. And part of that conversation needs to be not selfishly, but self-centered in the fact that here is what I have done. Here are the steps that I have taken in order to put myself in the best position possible, and therefore protect all of you around me from the possibilities of costs of care.
Yeah, it's a great way to position it. I'll tell you a little interesting story. My son obviously is a lot younger than me, and that's a good thing. He texted me last week and said, "Dad, believe it or not, I forgot to remember that I took your advice one time." And he said, long time ago, I had encouraged him, even though he was young, because he had some physical things going on, to see if he could buy some long-term care coverage. He apparently did, never told me about it, and then forgot all about it. So I guess in going through his files, he said, "Oh, I still have it. I just thought I'd tell you that I finally did something you told me to do." And I laughed. But here's the really neat thing, right? He's 47 years old. He's got some back problems that would literally exclude him from almost any kind of coverage. So he's got that handled now. And I texted him back, because that's the best way to talk to my children, by texting them. And I said, "Well done, child. I love you dearly. Keep paying that premium and go forward." Because he bought it a long time ago, it's pretty inexpensive. But that was a great example of somebody planning, even though he had forgot about planning the future because of the what ifs in life. You know, there's some information out there when it comes to caring for ourselves in some sort of a custodial issue, long-term care kind of thing. You know, about 40% or more of the money for that is spent for people under 60.
Hmm.
Think about that. We always think of, I don't want to talk about planning because I think I'll get Alzheimer's, or I don't want to talk about this because something bad will happen. That's not the case. It's like everything else in life. You sit down and have a reasonable conversation with your spouse, your family about the what ifs in life. How do I want to be cared for? And it's so important because, number one, when something happens, most people want to be cared for in their house. B, number two, can I do that? When they want care in their house, they don't know where to go to look for it. Number three, there are a lot of services now available to folks who don't necessarily have full coverage, but the government can provide some things. Even on you don't have to be derelict to get these services. You can get cared for in your house. So there's a lot of things that can go on. And the planning issue really starts with having that conversation. We've done that with our family. Number two, I can always go back and tell the story about my mom. She worked at GM for 49 years. And she would just say she would say to me all the time, son, don't put me in a nursing home. Don't put me in a nursing home. And my response was, Mom, I won't do that. But in the back of my head, I thought, unless something has happened to you and we can't care for you at home. Now, she never got to that point in time in her life because she died of cancer. So we never had to do that. But with my aunt, who always lived with us and took care of us, my brother and myself, she ultimately did go into a facility. And there was nothing we could do about that because it was part physical, part mental. So here's what I'm trying to get everybody to understand. There's a lot of ways to approach this whole issue. You being the sandwich generation, ladies and gentlemen, how do we deal with mom and dad? How do we take care of our kids? How do we deal with all of that? So I'm going to go through some things that might help you, at least give you ideas and things to talk about. Now, everything I talk about in this program, all the advice I give is free, which means you don't have to take it. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to give you a lot of free advice. Pick and choose what you like and what makes sense to you. But let's go forward and talk about the important things in life. So if what I've already said makes sense or has your interest, give me a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there, and we'll reach out to you and help you and get you whatever it is you need to make good decisions going forward.
I think, Ron, you often talk about the questions of when I need care, who's going to provide it, where will that be? Those are important questions to ask on and reflect for ourselves, and then what can be done and how can it be paid for. But looking around our family and asking those same kind of questions is important as well. Who potentially is going to need and require care, and how often might that care be needed? And then ultimately, who is going to be able to step in and provide some of that care, and what cost is there going to be involved?
And if you really are focused on having this conversation with parents and yourself, understand that you're really talking about yourself too. There's no law that says you don't need long-term care coverage or some kind of custodial help right now because you're young. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to us if we're going to make it through this afternoon. So having a conversation really is having a conversation about yourself too, even when you talk to your parents about it. So a couple things to talk about. I'm going to go back to the 3 W's that we always stress. And that's a great way to start the conversation. The 3 W's are this: when I need care, not if, but when I need care. That's the first W. Second W, who will provide it? Who will provide it? Third W, where will I get the care? So let's just back up for a moment. When you need care, I don't know, and I pray that nobody listening to this program will ever need it. But frankly, about half the people ended up needing some sort of custodial care. It may not be a dementia issue going into a memory care facility, but it could be a whole lot of other things. My own situation, I've had 3 back surgeries. My days of running hurdles and jumping jacks, they're way behind me. So at some point in time, if I live to be 100, I'm probably going to need some sort of custodial care, somebody to come into the house, help with things, even if my wife is with me. Who's going to provide it? A lot of people say, well, my daughter's a nurse and she said she'd take care of me. And my response is, I hope that happens. But in my own situation, number one, I don't want my children to stop their life to come and take care of me. And the other thing I tell them is they never listened to me when they were growing up. When I get really old and need help, I'm not going to listen to them either. So that's called payback. But the third issue is, what are we going to do? How are we going to find the help we need? And what kind of help would be appropriate? Because things do happen. And my wife's team can help get answers to all of those questions. And that's who's going to provide the help, inside or outside help. Then the last one, where are we going to get it? Most people, and I'm one of them, want to be cared for in the home. And for a lot of people, it's possible now that you don't have to go into a facility just because you've developed two of those activities of daily living, which says you qualify for some sort of long-term care. So it's important to understand what your options are, and we can help with those. Now, there's a lot of things we don't do because they required licensed physicians and other legal types of work. But there's a lot of help we can give you with giving you direction, putting you in contact with those resources so that you can create a really good strategy and plan for your entire family. Not only if you're dealing with parents, but also you may have children that need help or grandchildren that need help. So we can be a real service and a real source of information. So give us a call at 616-301-2581 or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your name and number in there. We will help you with the information you need, guidance, or putting you in contact with other professionals that can help you solve whatever problem you're trying to solve.
616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, the number to reach Ron Corser, CFP, as well as the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners. Lots of resources available there, ladies and gentlemen, and the experienced guidance to help you sort through all of your options and make the right decisions, right choices along the way. And then as you are faced with any pending or important decisions, 616-301-2581. So Ron, how much of what we can do about this gorilla in the room is based on proper habits and routines along the way, proper saving, appropriate investing? How important are those things going to be ultimately to our ability to even address this kind of big factor?
Well, think about it this way. If you haven't got a plan and you never saved any money, it really doesn't matter what you think you want to do. You're not going to have the resources to do it. And any kind of plan, ultimately, when it deals with money or health, requires money. It's that simple. So one of the first building blocks, and this is particularly available for folks that are still reasonably healthy and reasonably young, one of the basic building blocks to care for yourself, your family, grandparents, children, what have you, is do you have a sufficient life insurance plan? Do you have a life insurance plan? Because life insurance we think about as always being, well, if I die, somebody gets it. There's a lot of what we call living benefits to life insurance. And a good life insurance plan, properly structured, can be an absolute godsend for people who run into this, my goodness, I'm the sandwich generation people, now what am I going to do? I'll tell you an interesting story, and I don't tell this story just to scare people, but we always assume, our generation, the boomer generation, always assumes we're indestructible and we're going to live forever. I know that to be a fact because that's my mindset sometimes. We're always going to be indestructible. I knew a family, and the gentleman had gone through some work changes over the last 4 or 5 years. And that put an impact kind of on their financial well-being, but they managed to struggle through that. And he had purchased some life insurance from us because he wanted to protect his family, primarily his wife. Well, he got a job, a really nice job, and unbeknownst to his wife or me or anybody, he dropped his life insurance because the company had life insurance coverage. All right, I can understand that strategy. Well, about 3 years ago, he had some problems, developed cancer. He's probably at the end of his life. And in doing some reviews, we just realized that life insurance had been dropped. He's no longer working for the company. So that life insurance is gone also. And you look at the wife and you want to help, but sometimes you can't undo decisions that were made in the past. So I don't tell this story to make people feel guilty or to scare them, but just understand that when you start to plan for your family, whether it's trying to figure out what you're going to do with parents or what you're going to do for kids or grandkids or yourself, one of the fundamental building blocks is to have a sound life insurance strategy or program in place. Life insurance, we could spend 2 whole programs on it, but there are living benefits. You can take some of the death benefit and use it while you're alive. And I'm not going to go through it. It's too much for this program, but it's a really key part of any financial plan. Do you have a sound life insurance plan in place to protect you, to protect if you have to use money for your own family? Do you have ability if you just need to take out a cash loan out of your life insurance to say pay for something that's going on with your parents? There's a lot of uses for it, and it's really key. And a lot of people, just scream and everything when you talk about life insurance, but it really is about a living benefit, about creating a sound financial future, a good foundation. So ladies and gentlemen, give us a call. Creating a good foundation as a sandwich person is not an easy subject to deal with, and it's not an easy thing to talk about, but we can help you smooth out some of the creases and the bumps in the road on this. Give us a call, 616-301-2581. We can help you not only give you answers, but first of all, give you the right questions to ask so you can find the right answer. So call us again, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there. We'll reach out to you and provide every kind of help we can to solve whatever it is going on with your life right now.
I think I, like most people listening, probably if they really examine it, when I really kind of am reflective, most of the financial decisions, maneuvers, the planning that I do is, yes, to some extent for my own life's comfort, but really to provide the protection for my loved ones and my family. And that's why we're talking about this important topic on today's program. And if you do have any questions, if you would like to put plans together or even review and evaluate options with a qualified, experienced professional, give a call to the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners, your resource, Grand Rapids, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. I've got some more questions following up on that topic when we come back from the break, Ron, but I think this is a great topic for the program today, talking about caring for loved ones and all that goes into that from the considerations we must make from a financial perspective. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with more with Ron Courser, CFP, here on Your Course to Retirement in just a moment. And welcome back to the program. This is your course to retirement. We are, as always, joined by Ron Corser, founder of Cornerstone Retirement Partners, CFP, certified financial planning professional, your resource, Grand Rapids, for a common sense approach to planning for your financial, investment, and retirement future. And if you have any questions or concerns, you're always welcome to pick up the phone and give Ron and the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners a call. 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. We have been talking about caring for loved ones. Ron, we talked before the break a little bit about life insurance and the values and the uses. And I think that even if it's not expressly stated in this manner, it does seem to be insinuated that once we reach retirement age, we're not really going to need that much life insurance any longer. But there's a lot that can happen in retirement and over the duration of not just our own, but our family's lifetimes, that there could be reason to reconsider that if that is a widely held belief or our belief. I mean, a stream of Social Security is going to go away for a married couple. Pensions have the propensity to decrease or go away. Even the life savings that we have that gives us the confidence to walk away from the paycheck and move into retirement over years and decades in retirement could potentially be spent down. In the conversations that we've had throughout this program and kind of just examining my own situation, I feel as though that's something that I'm going to want to address into retirement. If for no other reason than to give my wife and myself more confidence in spending our money and enjoying our time together, knowing that we've got some buckets that are going to be refilled if either one of us are to pass away or when one of us is to pass away.
Yeah, it really is important. And we've got clients who actually are spending money to take care of their parents. And in my own life, we're spending money to take care of one of our grandchildren who has some visual, speaking, and reading problems. And it costs a lot of money to get them help. So you always have to have a lot of money or some money to deal with these things. And here's probably one of the best rules you can follow. And I don't say this because we're all selfish. I say that because it's really the key to thinking about, I'm a sandwich person. What am I going to do? The number one goal should always be to make sure that you've created a strategy and a plan so that you are on the road to becoming financially stable. We look at our own family, and my wife and I both agree that we're the fallback position. We're the place that our kids and grandkids can always run into and be safe, so to speak. We're the ones that have to be financially sound so that we can help and provide for them in times of need, in emergency situations. And so when it comes to planning, the number one objective is to make sure you're financially squared away. Now, why would I bring that up? A lot of times it's a natural thing, I think, for parents to want to perhaps take care of their children a little bit, or maybe cover some of their debt. But when it comes to grandchildren, I hear it a lot. I really love my grandchildren. I want to provide their college education for them right now. And I say, how old are they? Well, they're 6 months old. How much do you want to provide? I want all of it. Well, we have no idea how much that really means. But maybe it would be more important to have a conversation with your children to say, are you doing everything you need to do? And this is dynamite territory, right? This is landmine territory. But to say, what are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? Yeah, we're fine. Do you have life insurance? No, I don't need it. Okay, are you putting money away? I can't afford it. Got too many bills to pay. Why is that? Because I just bought a new bass boat with a 120 horsepower engine, man, and I need it. So there's a lot of conversations you can have without destroying the family over Thanksgiving dinner. But it's conversations that you have to have. One of the most important conversations I tell people you really need to try to have is with your parents. Because my mom didn't want me to put her in a nursing home. I ultimately knew, and she was pretty close to the vest, how much money she had. She didn't have that much money, just as long as she stayed healthy. But it's important to look at your mom and dad, even if you haven't gotten along with them, because if they get sick, they're still going to be part of your responsibility. Say, tell me how you'd like to be cared for going forward. Tell me what you already have in place so that if something happens to you, I can be a real help as opposed to a hindrance. I know you don't want to tell me about all your money, but you can at least tell me about some of it so that if you or mom need help, we know how to provide it. It's a great way to start the conversation. It does two things. It tells you where the holes in their plan are, but here's a real benefit. It'll tell you where the holes in your plan are. So that's a great conversation to have. It's a great conversation to have with your kids who maybe are just starting out in life and don't have a lot of money. It's like my daughter. We had a grandson who had something called apraxia. I didn't even know how to spell that, but it's a serious affliction, and he's still dealing with some of it, and it cost a lot of money to get the help he needs to get him better. They're really not in a position to do all of that, but we are, thank you, Jesus, that we're able to do that. But it's part of the planning that we did a long time ago, that we wanted to be in a position to help. So it's a conversation for us sandwich folks. You can't get away from that sandwich thing. So it's a conversation you need to have first and foremost with your parents who are still alive, and maybe respect their wishes. And secondly, if you do have the conversation and you ask those 3 W questions, when, who, and where, you can try to figure out then, okay, where do we need help? It may be that it's not possible for them to create a long-term care kind of plan using life insurance products or long-term care coverage. But there's other things that you can do. You can find out what's available out in the real world through counties or state help, things that people come in to help us. There's their VA benefits if one of your parents was a veteran. You can start to fill in the holes in their plan by looking around and saying, what's out there? What can we do? So ladies and gentlemen, if this is important to you, and I hope it is, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there. We'll reach out to you. We'll help you in every way we can to get you the information and help you need. It's more than just, do I have enough money? You need to have a plan, not only for your parents, but that'll help you create one for yourself, which is probably more important because you are ultimately the foundation for the entire family.
Well, and Ron, we've spoken about the sandwich generation phenomenon in this program, but even without the generational factor, within a married couple, I think that these considerations are extremely important because if some type of event is encountered, whether it's the passing of a spouse or the illness, the sickness, the healthcare suffers of a spouse, yes, there can be expenses involved with that, but that may have more of an impact on the healthier spouse who has many, many years of regular living left to do, but because of those expenses maybe has drained certain assets down. Would you say that that is also a true and valid reason for concern and consideration?
It is, because we always assume we're always going to have health care provided by somebody else. And that necessarily isn't true.
And that our spouse can somehow magically provide that health care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting experience. I mean, it's almost like we're talking about things that are depressing, and I guess in some way they are. What can happen, what might go wrong. But there's a lot of things that can happen to us as people that we just didn't plan for. I never planned to have my back to fall apart. I never planned for that, but I've had 3 surgeries. Now, I've had I'm really blessed by God. Put me in the hands of a great surgeon. I'm able to walk and talk and still exercise a little bit. 50 or 60 years ago, I'd be curled up in a vet's home, drooling, waiting for my cookie in the afternoon. So there's a lot of things that can happen because we assume, what do we assume? Well, we're 52 years old. I plan on retiring at 62 and working to then. That's 17 years from today. Do you really think you know exactly what's going to happen? So we have to plan for the what ifs in life. And it's important to say that's why we have to become financially sound so that we can be a resource for our family. That doesn't mean we're going to spend all of our money on mom and dad, because maybe mom and dad already have some money saved, put aside to take care of themselves. But we still have to be in a position to help them make good care decisions, because they're going to need that from us. So the more educated we can become, and we can be a source for people out there as to what's around, what's available, state, local resources, what's available given your current financial situation. We can help with those things. So it's important to understand that the sooner you plan for these kinds of things, the sooner it's going to be possible to not be surprised if something happens. And like Rosanna Dana from Saturday Night always used to say, man, it's always something. It's always something. And that's true in our life. So let's see if we can talk about it's always something and go forward from there.
Well, with that consideration, again, Ron, a lot goes into what we can do, and there are certain aspects of planning for our own retirement that need to be thought through very well. Yes, the health considerations, but the financial setup, how the assets are aligned to generate income, where our Social Security is going to kick in, what, if any, pension streams of income we are going to have. Bringing those all together into a comprehensive picture really may help us identify where some holes in the planning may lie, undiscovered or unaddressed, and give us the ability then to have those conversations within our own plans.
Yeah, it really is. It's pretty mature for a couple to say, you know, I don't know all the answers. I'm not sure I know all the questions, but I do have questions. And if I get answers to those questions, maybe it'll bring up other questions that I didn't think about that I'll need answers for too. It always gets down to, number one, planning in the way that will help create the best cushion in your own life for what may or may not happen. Secondly, what are we going to do about mom and dad? Maybe you don't have to do anything. but it's really important to start to think about it. And if you have a situation where you have more than 2 or 3 brothers and sisters, that's an important thing to think about. My brother Ricky and I, when my aunt was in a nursing home and she was finally on her last days, she had the health care and all of that stuff set up, basically the estate plan for her, and she didn't have any money. But he had the ultimate decision on when to pull the plug for her. So my brother and I are down at the hospital along with my aunt, who's the sister of my aunt, who's basically on life support. And we came to the conclusion, just talking among ourselves, that it was time to pull the plug and let God be God. And my aunt said, absolutely not. I'm not going to allow that. And we were both very kind with her, but saying, that's not a decision you have to make or can make. We've talked to Aunt Helen about how she wants to be cared for. And Ricky, my brother, had the ultimate decision, and I just agreed with him and supported him. So she got up, started crying, and left. So ultimately, we went back into the room, went through the process of pulling the plug on her, and she died in about a half an hour. The moral of that story isn't that we have to go through that. That's part of life. But sometimes if there's more than 2 or 3 or 5 kids involved, they all have a different approach as to what should be done. So one of the key parts to this whole planning process and trying to figure out how to deal with, you know, life being a sandwich generation kid is, A, do you have your own documents in place for how you want to be cared for in an end of the life kind of situation? And number 2, have you talked to your parents about it? And do they have the documents in place to handle that lifetime, that end of the life situation? because when you have a lot of children involved, it can potentially get messy. It really can. Somebody has to be in charge of this, but the directive has to come from mom and dad. The directive for me and my wife, Nancy, comes from us to our children. They have to know how we want to be cared for in an end-of-life situation or even a long-term care situation. I've made it real clear. I want to be cared for at home unless it's impossible. And my wife and Nancy have pledged love to one another and to take care of one another. But as my wife looked at me one time with love in her eyes, she said, "I love you a lot, Ron, but I ain't wiping your butt." So I said, I get that. That's where we're going to need somebody to come in and help. So those are the kind of conversations you need to have, but you need to have some paperwork in place that'll allow you to make good decisions for your parents, to make good decisions for yourself, allow your parents to make great decisions for themselves so that you can help them with this.
Again, if you would need any help, pick up the phone, give a call to Cornerstone Retirement Partners, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. So Ron, I know that you are not an attorney, but I also know that you know enough in this area to understand the importance of those legal documents and what they can do. Just having that as part of the conversation, as I'm sure you do in your financial review and evaluation, do you find that a lot of people are missing that important component? And if so, what are some of the documents that you think would be needed or appropriate, or where should we begin the conversation of concluding if we have addressed this need or not?
A great place to start is to say, Mom, Dad, if you two, something happens to you and you can't make your own decisions for yourself, either with your money or your health care, who's going to do that for you? And if it's us, do you have the proper documents in place? Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I watch Law and Order every once in a while and things like that. So maybe I can help. The first thing people need to do is to make sure that they have a durable power for finance. So if mom and dad are incapacitated, somebody else has the right to make financial decisions or to inquire about their financial accounts when they can't. Really important, because if something's going on with mom and dad, or something's going on with you and your wife, are your kids in a position to help you? And they need the legal documents to do that. Then on the healthcare side, they need a couple things. They need a healthcare power, which gives somebody other than, in my own case, somebody other than my wife, Nancy, or me, to make decisions for ourselves. It gives our children the right to make decisions when it comes to healthcare for us, if we can't do that. And then we also have a living will, or at the end of life kind of document that says, you know what, if it's time for God to do what he's going to do and bring me home, then this is how I want to be cared for. This is how I want things to go. And you have the right to make those decisions on my behalf. But if I can make them on my own, I'm going to do it. So you need those documents. You also need some sort of financial plan that allows one person perhaps to be the executor of your estate. You can have more, but there has to be at least one point person, so to speak, to help out. And if both mom and dad die, or my wife Nancy and I die, in our example, it's our son who's the point person to distribute whatever we have to our two children and grandchildren. So those are some of the things they need. And I tell people there's a lot of places you can go to get those documents, but it's important to have them. If you have them and you haven't looked at them for the past 10 years, have an attorney take a quick look and see if you can update some of the stuff. Sometimes we find when we go through some of the documents with our clients, they haven't been updated since their second child was born, and they have 4 children, and the youngest one is 39. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit outdated. Maybe we got to update that document or scrap it and start all over again. But those are really important things. They really are. So it's things that we help people walk through. No, we don't have an attorney firm. We don't do that. But we can certainly introduce you to attorneys who do. But we emphasize how important it is to have those documents. It's also important when it comes to this is make sure you have the right beneficiaries on all your financial documents and assets. You know, sometimes, and every once in a while this happens, you'll see a couple and they've gone through divorces and they still have the previous spouse on some of their documents because they've never changed them. That's a disaster waiting to happen. So we always review those documents when we're talking with or dealing with new folks, and we always go through that as part of the review with our clients.
I know there's a lot of planning and pre-planning that goes into things, and just making sure that everybody is on the same page with budgeting and spending and bills and where different bank accounts are. Sometimes family members, even spouses, Ron, can be left in the dark with those things. And sometimes as children, we may have to pick up some of the pieces and help a parent as a result of being left in the dark or not handling these things during life. Do you have maybe a list of items that you suggest that people address when and if they encounter that kind of situation or are helping a family member kind of put the pieces together?
Yeah, the reason I'm smiling and laughing is because my wife is the one who handles all of our finances. And I'm happy with that. I really am. But I told her, I don't think I know where most of the stuff is. So she has to live long after than me because I'll never find it all if she dies. But that's our situation. And her response is, well, I probably ought to write down all the secret passwords and everything. I'm saying, yeah, that might be a good idea. That might be. Yeah, we have
got some reoccurring charges that you won't be able to figure out where to get rid of them.
I tell you, I'm not going to let her die. That's just going to be the way it is. Yeah, we have a little brochure we can send people. It's like a checklist, and it really is pretty definitive and pretty detailed. But it's not a 14-page document. It's strictly a fold-out kind of thing, about 2 pages. If somebody would like to have that, we can certainly send it to them. All you have to do is give us a call at the office, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there, tell us what you need. And if this document is what you'd like to have, we can send it to you, either email it to you or mail it to you, whatever's convenient.
Well, again, if you would like to receive that list, that document, that resource, pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Hard enough when maybe 2 members of the team, the spouses, are not on the same page, or maybe one is in the dark, but stepping in as a third party in that situation, Ron, has remarkable challenges. And there are some places probably where we could begin to start, but I've heard that it's good to maybe run a credit check what accounts may be open and where. You may uncover some loose ends by doing so.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's a real issue, particularly when mom and dad are secretive about what they have or don't have. I get that.
And we shouldn't be. And I think that's the point of this program, Ron, is that we could do some fantastic things with our money during our lifetimes. But if we leave our family in the dark, then we may not have done them a great deal of service or favors. And so, yes, we've got to prepare the money for the people and be prudent and be good stewards of our money. But we also need to have those open and honest conversations to prepare the people for the money as well. And in that case, have a better transfer both of value and of values.
Yeah. We can sit here for the rest of the afternoon and talk about how important it is. The real key is to start the conversation. I know I've said that a bunch of times today, but that's the real key. And to be helpful when you're talking to mom and dad. You know, not everybody comes from an Aussie inherited family where things are just hunky-dory. I'm probably the only one in West Michigan that came from somewhat of a dysfunctional family, but I'm good with that. You know, I really am. I love what's left of my family. But it's important to at least have the discussion. It's important to be understanding with parents, particularly if our parents are a bit closed-minded about talking about certain things. I've had some clients where I brought up the issue of custodial care, and a couple of them have just said, "I don't even want to talk about it. Don't you dare bring it up." I understand the fear, I do. But somehow everybody has to understand that there's going to come a point in time when, whether we like it or not, we're going to be responsible in some fashion for our parents' well-being. And there may come a time with some of us in our lives when we're going to have to help out with our children and grandchildren. So the more we can prepare for that situation, to get mom and dad ready, to get our children, have them understand, the smoother that whole thing happens. Everybody wants to take their kids to Disney World and go on trips and just have a hunky-dory time. For some people, it's going to happen all the time. For others, it's not going to happen at all. So we need to plan for reality. We need to plan with the understanding that at some point in time, this whole thing can fall right in my lap. I'm going to be responsible for mom and dad and for 2 of my grandchildren. And that takes planning, and we can help with that. So ladies and gentlemen, if you've listened through this whole program, thank you for staying tuned. It's not been the easiest thing to talk about, but if something has touched your heart, give us a call, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your information in there. We will reach out to you, provide resources, answer your questions, give you the help you need so that you can make really good decisions going forward. Again, the phone number is 616-301-2581.
It's not just about our own selfish sense of well-being. It's about the financial protections that we offer to our family and to our loved ones so often. And that's why it's so important to have that plan in place, why Ron and the team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners help their clients plan from both the wealth and the health perspective and really have a team approach to making sure that you've got a plan, as well as invite the family into the planning process. They really are a family there, and they want you to plan with your family as well. Pick up the phone, give them a call for that complimentary review. An important topic, obviously, that we've discussed on the program today, but the real value is that Ron and the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners do make the offer and the opportunity available to you to get a plan put together or to review and evaluate your current plan through that detailed forensic financial analysis, looking at all aspects of the plan that you have in place or putting that plan together with you. 616-301-2581, the number to call, 616-301-2581. Ron, always a pleasure. Thank you for not shying away from the important and sometimes difficult topics to address from a financial planning perspective.
It's what we do to try to help people. So thank everybody. Thank you for listening to today's program. I hope you have a blessed Mother's Day, and I hope the sun keeps shining and all things work well today. Take care and tune in next week. Take care.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock at News Radio WOOD, or visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals or growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the products featured